Good morning, friends. 47th GST Council has brought few changes in the GST law. This is a very short video on explaining the notifications which has been issued last night regarding all those recommendations, although the rates have not yet been notified, which was explained in 47th GST Council that there will be some changes in those also. But certain changes in the rules and the provisions have been notified with effect from 5th of July. And this is a short video just to explain that. Good morning. This is CA Puneet Oberoi. And let us, without wasting time, understand those notifications which have come this morning. Let me share that screen so that you can understand what are the changes which have been brought now. There is one notification number 9/2022 dated 5th of July which specifies that the provisions clause C of section 110 and section 111 of the said act shall come into force from this date. So date has been notified for that. So let us understand what is the clause C of section 110 of the Finance Act. It just gave the facilitation that any amount that you're depositing in electronic cash ledger, whether under the head of the tax or interest or penalty, now that can be freely transferable for setting off your liability under any of the tax head of integrated or central or state. And at the same time, there has been a provision now, a change now that it can be further transmitted to any distinct person also, provided that in case there is any liability in the liability register, then this amount cannot be transferred. So this has not now been enforced. There is another change like section 111, section 53, which was substituted with a new wording. Now that has also been notified. So these are the two changes which have been brought with this notification number 9/2022. Section 53 basically has stipulated now that any kind of ITC which is wrongly availed or utilized, in that case the interest would be applicable. Again, the concept has been followed that only the cash portion interest will be applied and not exceeding 24%. So that resubstitution of 53 has been made effective from 5th of July 2022. As far as notification number 10/2022, it says that again the benefit has been given that annual return is not required for any person who is having aggregate turnover up to 2 crore rupees. So annual return is not required to be filed for the financial year 21-22 also for those people whose aggregate turnover is up to 2 crore rupees. This is a notification number 11/2022, again dated 5th of July. Now, this notification number 21/2019, Central Tax dated 23rd April 19. This notification was in relation to the composition levy. There was a special procedure for the filing of the return and the payment of tax for persons who were covered under the composition levy. So in that case, earlier the date was given as 30th of June. Now this date has been extended till 31st day of July 2022 for the quarter ending 30th of June. So this has been amended for composition levy people. There is notification number 12/2022, which again says that there was a late fees levy for filing of GSTR4, and there was waiver in that case. There was a notification number 73/2017 dated 29 December 2017. With this notification, certain waivers were given for non-filing or late filing of GSTR4. They have given further relaxation that earlier for the financial year 21-22, the date was specified as 30th day of June 22. That has been extended to 28th of July 2022 for filing GSTR4. So there is a notification number 13/2022, which basically says that the time limit for the issuance of the order, there was suo motu order of the Supreme Court where certain limitation period was extended from March 2020 to 28th of February 2022. So taking cognizance of that and ultimately understanding that clarity has to be given to the SSC, they have basically issued this notification number 13/2022, in which there are three items. The first two items are basically for the benefit of the department, where they are extending the time limit for issuance of the order. For issuance of order under 7310, the date has been extended up to 30th of September 23, right? So in part 2, they basically says that for competition, the limitation period under section 7310 for the issuance of the order, this period of 1st March 22, 28 February 22 shall be excluded for the calculation. So this limitation period will get extended enormously for the recovery of erroneous refund. It also gives a benefit now that for the filing refund application under section 54 or 55 of the Act, this period of 1st March to 20th February 22 will also be excluded. So we also know that there was a limitation period of 2 years. So that limitation period calculation now will get exclusion of this period, first day of March 22 to 20th of February 2022. So this period will be excluded. Now let us come to the most important part of the changes which have been brought now into the rules. This notification number 14/2022 has been issued, and there are certain changes which have been brought. So let us understand quickly what are the changes and what are the brief implication at a bird's eye view, which is visible now looking at these rules. The first is basically, if we go to serial number 2, there is uh, in sub rule 21A in rule 4, after the proviso, following provisos shall be added. So now a proviso has been added, which basically says that in case there is a suspension of registration, in that case, if the default because of which the suspension of registration was done is removed, then automatically that suspension will be revoked and registration will be activated. But it will happen only till the time it has not been cancelled by the proper officer. So it basically means that if your registration has been cancelled, then this benefit is not going to be available to you. So this is a slight change which has come now. So let us come to serial number 3, which basically says that, for the exporters, when they were basically availing the benefit of RODTP or MES license, those were exempted supplies, and because of which, there was applicability of Rule 42 and 43, and the reversals were required to be done. So it was a very cumbersome process, and ultimately there was a lot of divergent of opinions. Also, the calculation amount was very meager, and time and effort were getting wasted a lot. So they have now come up with a solution that there is no need for reversal for the exporters of an amount of ITC corresponding to the exempted supply relating to MES license or ROTTP scheme, which basically has been initiated recently now. So Rule 42 and 43 both are not applicable in that case. So specifically, a clause D has been added to explanation 1 to Rule 43, which basically says that for the purposes of Rule 42 and this rule, these will not be included in the calculation of exempted supply for the purpose of reversals. So this is also a change, a welcome feature for exporters. A lot of hassles will get saved, and otherwise, reversals will not be required. So another thing which is important is that this is applicable prospectively. So this has not been made applicable with retrospective effect. So till the date of 5th of July 2022, reversals will be applicable. And from 5th of July 2022, no reversals are applicable. So any kind of output supply which is happening after 5th of July 22, no reversal is required to be done in that case. So let us go to rule number 4. There is also important change. There is a change in rule number 46. Rule number 46 pertains to invoice rules, that what are the particulars which are to be specified in a valid invoice. So now there was a clause up to R, subclause R. So there was specification of items which were required to be included in the invoice. So another addition of subclause S is there now. Item number S has been added. So this is basically for those people who are not required to issue e-invoices despite their aggregate turnover exceeding the threshold limit required for issuing of e-invoices. So all those people who are not required to issue e-invoice, but their turnover, aggregate turnover is more than the aggregate turnover prescribed for issuing e-invoice, which is 20 crore at the moment, they have to make a declaration at the end of the invoice that we declare that though our aggregate turnover in any preceding financial year from 17-18 onward is more than the aggregate turnover notified under sub-rule 4 of Rule 48, we are not required to prepare an invoice in terms of the provision of said sub-rule. So this declaration is required now, that e-invoicing is not applicable in our case, although our turnover is more than that. So, what next? Let us go to item number 5 in Rule 86. This is corresponding to the earlier notification that we just read now, that the following subrules have been inserted, namely with this person deposits the amount of earnest refund sanctioned to him. Now, in this case, what is happening is there is another Rule 4B, which has been inserted after Rule 4A, which basically says that if there is a registered person has deposited certain earnest refund which was sanctioned to him, so he deposits it through DRC 03. In that case, what was happening was that there was a dead end. He has deposited the interest, he has deposited the penalty, but since he had got the refund, so ultimately it was withdrawn from the electronic credit ledger. So earlier there was no mechanism that once it has been deposited in DRC 03, how can that amount which has been which was erroneous but which was admitted and paid back by the person who is receiving the refund, how will that amount again go into the electronic credit ledger? So for that purposes, a procedure has been notified now. The another form GST PMT 03A has been basically designated as a form under which now this amount will get recredited to the electronic credit ledger wherever there was earnest refund. Let us go to item number 6, which basically says that there is going to be change in rule number 87, which is not very significant. But earlier, the different modes of making the payment of the GST, like UPS, UPI, or IMPS, these were not included into the modes of payment. So now those all have also been included, and suitable changes have been made in rule number 87. Not very significant. Operationally, it might be beneficial for us. So that has been changed in that case. Uh, Now, let us understand 88B, which basically says that the interest calculation manner has been specified under Rule 88B. So earlier, if we see that, Section 51 basically was specifying that the interest will be calculated in the manner prescribed. So there was no manner prescribed. So there were certain contentions that when the operation of the law is not supported by any rule, so operation fails. But now the government, to avoid any kind of confusion in that case, has inserted Rule 88B, and now they are specifying manner of calculating interest on delayed payment of tax. It is not very different from the fact that now interest will be calculated on the cash portion only. It will not be calculated on the gross. So it is very clear. Now this basically has been substituted from 1st of July 2017 with retrospective effect. So all those issues and concerns which were being raised have been put to rest now. So it basically says that if there is a delay in filing of the return, then interest will be calculated from the due date of filing of that return till the date when the return is filed, only on the uh, amount of tax which remains unpaid. Uh, Another thing is that in case where the interest is payable in accordance with subsection 1 of section 50, interest will be calculated on the amount of tax which remains unpaid for the period starting from the date on which that such tax was due to be paid till the date when the tax is actually paid. So again, it is specifying that only on the cash portion only interest is required to be paid. As far as section 3, subsection 3 of section 50, again, they have basically specified in detail how this calculation will be made in case there is a wrong availment of ITC. In case there is wrong availment of ITC and it is utilized. Now, the word basically which has been used is availed and utilized. So, if you have availed but not utilized, no interest is required to be paid. Interest will be required to be paid only when you have availed and you have utilized also along with it. Okay. So the interest will be paid from the date of such utilization up to the date of the reversal of that ITC. So different ways of calculating that has been prescribed, like, in case uh, the date on which it has the debit, and suppose you are not utilizing it and the credit balance is sufficiently available in electronic credit ledger, then it will be deemed that it has not been utilized. So if the amount which has been wrongly availed, suppose is 50 rupees, right? And the amount available in your electronic credit ledger is 51 rupees. So it will be presumed that that 51 rupees balance in electronic credit ledger also consists of that 50 rupees which was wrongly availed and that has not yet been utilized. So till the time the balance remains above 50 rupees, there is no requirement of making the payment of interest. But the moment this amount falls below 50 rupees, suppose it goes to 49 rupees, from the date of debit entry due to which this amount falls below 50 rupees, from that date interest will be applicable only on the differential amount which was required to be paid. For example, in this case is rupees 1. So on that amount interest will be calculated. So this is what all is specified in this rule 88B, uh, how the interest is going to be calculated. And the rule 89, in case of refunds, very significant changes have come in this rule, which we should understand and we should note down in these cases. Now, in this rule 89, as far as clause A is concerned, is only an explanation which basically states that in case of SCZ, what will happen and who will be the specified officer in that case. The meaning has been given in this case. A sub rule 2 has been added basically or amended for export of electricity, specific case of export of electricity. Let us not discuss in that case also. Let us understand sub rule 4, which is very important. What does sub rule 4 says? You also please note down the sub rule 4 is basically applicable in case of refund of ITC in case of exports or zero to supplies without payment of IGST under LUT in all those cases. So in case of zero supplies, there was a continuous dispute between the department and SSC because there was some internal instructions which were given to the department that for the purposes of calculation of refund, in this case, you should adopt the FOB value and not the invoice value. Now, what was happening basically was that, we follow the transaction value under section 15. In that case, as per the component supply, if there is any freight or any other charges incidental to the making the supply, even beyond the factory gate also, that was also forming part of the aggregate turnover or the value of supply under section 15. So on the total amount only the tax was being levied, which was quite right and justified also. And there was changes in the shipping bill format also in which that invoice value was given. So there was also circular number 125, which basically said that the invoice value has to be matched with the corresponding value given in the shipping bill, which is basically invoice value, and the refund has to be calculated. And most of people they were taking is a CIF value only, and on that only refund was being sanctioned. Another thing which is required to be noted is that in case there is any refund on the basis of payment of IGST, so the electronically that invoice gets transmitted to ICGate portal, and it is only a CIF value, and whatever is GST paid on that invoice that is getting refunded. So there has to be a parity in how the refund is being made available in a system under Rule 96, where the IGST is being paid, refunded on the basis of actual amount debited to electronic credit ledger, and how the calculation is being made under Rule 89.4. So to put that rest, and definitely putting that rest in favor of the department only as per their own wisdom and all calculation, now they have included this FOB value as part of the rule only. Now they say that the value of exports for the purposes of that formula will mean basically the FOB value declared in the shipping bill or the value declared in tax invoice or bill of supply, whichever is less. So now this says that whatever we say is the explanation that you have to adopt now. But the relief in this case is that this is also prospective. This is not retrospective. Another thing which we need to know is that when there is certain explanation which is added into that rule, that this is how free on board value will be calculated and this is how, which explanation was not earlier available under the rule. So the department cannot make a plea basically that it was already intended to be FOB value only, and it is retrospective. So it has to be prospective only. And I believe that, there will be another dispute which will happen between the SSC and the department now, where the refund applications pending with the department are being processed on FOB value, and in case those are not processed on CIF value, then department will always take this plea. And now it is on statute book only under the rule 89.4 that FOB value or the invoice value which is less to be taken. But from now onwards, from 5th of July 2022, no option with the SSC. If you are applying any refund under 89.4, please take only FOB value. CIF value cannot be taken down. Another change in rule number 89.5, which is very, very important in the case of refunds of inverted duty structure. So there has been a change in the formula. Friends, we need to understand, before we understand what is the change, we also need to understand that there was a very uh, talked about judgment of VKC Footsteps of Gujarat High Court, which was in favor, where it had basically read down this formula under Rule 18.5, and they had included in the calculation the amount of ITC which was relating to services also. Uh, there was a contradictory judgment of Madras High Court also. So ultimately, the matter went into the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court gave this judgment in favor of the department prima facie. But actually, in that judgment and order, in the third part of that judgment, the direction was given to the GST Council, where they had clearly specified that the formula for the calculation of the refund is not correct. It is faulty, and at that point of time, the Supreme Court had said that they do not have any power to rewrite the law, but they can direct the GST Council to rectify the anomaly. So it is the content of that Supreme Court judgment that there was an anomaly in the formula, and it has been rectified now by this notification. Now, what they have said, we know the formula of calculation of GST refund, in which we basically net ITC, we exclude the value of services and capital goods. Nothing has been changed in that case. We make it proportionate with the inverted duty turnover divided by the aggregate turnover. That proportionate net ITC, then we used to reduce the tax payable, outward tax payable on such inverted duty goods. Now the change in formula is that the amount of that outward tax, right, on that inverted dated goods, now that has also been made proportionate. How that has been made proportionate? That the tax payable of such inverted dated supply of goods or services, then it is to be further multiplied with this proportion, net ITC divided by ITC availed on inputs and input services. So I'll just give you an example. For example, your net ITC is without its services is suppose 80 rupees, and 20 rupees is the amount of services which has been excluded from net ITC. So what will happen is that the net ITC is 80 rupees, and amount of net ITC plus ITC of services is 100 rupees. So what will happen is that suppose your output tax is 100 rupees, so 100 into 80 divided by 100, so 80% of that. So again, the amount which was getting reduced earlier was only 100 rupees. Now that will be reduced with the same proportion of the extent of services which was not calculated in the ITC. Now that also will get reduced to 80 rupees. So that difference of 20 rupees component, which was earlier getting reduced, now that will get inflated, right? So 80 rupees will be reduced instead of 100 rupees. So you will have more refund in your hand, and there is some compensation for the services input also, which will get refunded in your hand. So very welcome move, very important. Another thing important to be noted in this case is that this is also, although not specified as a retrospective change, it is a prospective change. But I have an opinion, my personal opinion is that since this rule has been brought, or change has been brought to rectify an anomaly or an error in the formula, which has been pointed out by the Supreme Court in its judgment, Honorable Supreme Court in judgment of EK's footsteps. So this effect should be given retrospectively. So all those pending applications for last 2 years and excluding that limitation period which has yet to be filed, we need to file after 5th of July 2022. Please apply with this revised formula. And in case, which I personally feel that now the matter will get escalated, another dispute that all those refund applications which have been disposed of in the earlier formula also, I really doubt, I think that Pandora box will also get opened now. New formula will be applied in all those cases, and the refund will be claimed on that also, because there has to be equality before law under Article 14, and it cannot be denied in that case. So, this is about rule number 89, which was very, very important. There's certain changes which has been done to uh, GST 3B form. This is relating to e-commerce operators basically. Uh, Rule 9, the section 9(5), which has been inserted now. So that has been changed in GST 3B. I'm just trying to shorten whatever is available, because a lot of changes have been given, changes in this, but again given relating to GST 9 and 9C, which are just changing of the dates. In GST 3B, it has been changed now that some separate tables have been inserted. Certain changes have been done in table number 4. There is a new table 3.1.1 for e-commerce operators have been inserted. Other than that, important change is that in case of exporters specifically, like risky exporters, so in that case, the refund, there will be a system generated RFD 01 refund application. And in that case, refund will not be endlessly stuck as not being made available. So that refund application will come back to the proper officer or jurisdictional officer, who will process the refund as per the provisions of Rule 89. So I also have doubt in this new provision which has come up, because the provision of rule number 89 does not specify calculation of refund in case there is a payment of IGST and the refund is calculated in that case. So how will they calculate? They will calculate under 89.4, or how they will calculate, and then that is basically refund of ITC. So that needs to be seen how that processing has to be done by the proper officer. But this is a new thing now, that in case of risky scooters with the refunds who are getting stuck, those will get processed through the department, and we have to now contact the department to get a refund in our hand. Other than that, I think GST 9 and 9C, I've already told you, not much changes are there. The only thing is that, it has been now mandated that for HSN code beyond 5 crores, 6-digit HSN code has to be specified from this year only, financial year 21-22, in respect of table number 17, that is output supply, and up to 5 crore rupees, 4-level HSN code have to be mentioned. Uh, as far as ITC table of table number 18 is concerned, exemption has been given for financial year 21-22, and no reporting is required in this case in the current financial year. But please gear up, friends. Requirements are getting stringent day by day. I think this is all about the major pointers basically for this notification number 47 GST Council, and the notification relating to that. I believe that I've been able to give you certain pointers, basically a brief overview of all these things, and this will be useful in your professional endeavors. Thank you very much. keep listening and keep yourself updated with the law, and which is very important for all those people who are into practice and for business owners who are doing their businesses. Thank you very much for listening. Please like and subscribe this channel also. Thank you very much.